It is Wednesday, my guys and girls. We are here on Vault Day again. I only have my rogue this time. We actually don't have any alts because the only alts that I'm playing, I'm recording for a series that I can't release yet. So we just have rogue to show off today. We got 8 20s done at least. I can't remember. We definitely got the 3 slots open though. And we didn't do any heroic, which was kind of bad. Okay, that's big. That's big. Not so good. We don't care about that. Legs, we have 4 and 5 currently. In shoulders, we have 4 11. So it's almost definitely going to be shoulders, right? I think legs give you slightly more agility though. They do, right? There's no way it's going to overcome 4 item levels though. Yeah, I've got 4 and 5 legs, 4 and 1 shoulders. It has to be shoulders in this instance. They were just way better. There's no way. Anyway, as I was saying before, I definitely should have taken at least 2 heroic boss kills for the chance at the Erenog ring, because I need that. Okay, key that we got is a 23 ruby. That's going to be rough. We'll see if we manage to time that or not, but I'll probably re-roll it actually. I don't think I need a high tyrannical ruby still, so we'll probably be re-rolling that. We'll have to see. Anyway, let's go and have a look at some drama on the forums then and what's been happening this week. The first post that we have is that Shadowlands was a bit better than Dragonflight. Now, I've read this just before, and I'm super surprised by this for a couple of reasons. A, I just have the complete and utter opposite opinion to this person. It's like we're just the opposite extremes, I guess. And then the other thing that surprised me is that this seems much more common than I thought, which is interesting. So I'd be keen to know if you're of the same opinion as this person, and whether you think that the actual game in Shadowlands was better than Dragonflight. I genuinely just, it's actually like almost incomprehensible to me. So anyway, let's go through it and we'll see why this guy likes Shadowlands more than Dragonflight. I like Shadowlands, never let the groupthink / hive mind convince me otherwise, 6.5 out of 10. I like Dragonflight 2, 5.5 out of 10. The reasons. Raiders and Mythic Pluses still had reasons to do things in outdoor world content in Shadowlands. Didn't raid log during Shadowlands as I do now. I mean, I raid logged all of Shadowlands, other than Sepulchre, where I actually played alts because the game became more alt-friendly, and I played the game way more than I normally did. In the first 2 patches, so for both Nathria and Sanctum, I literally raid logged for 2 nights a week because there was nothing for me to do. I don't know what this person's referring to. I actually don't know. Still had reasons to do things in the outdoor world. I assume they're referring to like reputations, so Korthia, grinds, etc. The more, right, I guess, also doing Torghast. But for me, I mean, once I'd collected my reputations that I needed and I had crafted my legendaries that I needed, I literally just did like the weekly renown quest and that was pretty much it. I don't think there was actually anything for me to keep doing. And I didn't want to log into alts at the point in time because then I just knew I had like 4 weeks of rep grinds and other things to collect resources in front of me that I couldn't be bothered to do. So I never really played, basically. I'm not sure. I'd be interested to know what people actually did in Shadowlands in the outdoor world if they were playing Mythic Plus. Did they need to do extra stuff? Can't even remember. For me, it was dead. Like I said, I actually just raid logged. I'm almost certain I just raid logged in the first 2 patches of Shadowlands. First year of that game, I barely played it. I literally just raided. Next up, then we have endgame zones every patch in Shadowlands, even 9.0. Yeah. There were, but they were awful. The Maw was probably the worst endgame like piece of content, like open world content, sorry. The worst piece of open world content, yeah, that makes sense, that I've ever experienced. It wasn't difficult, it was just frustrating. They literally just added frustrating mechanics into the Maw to make it harder, which is just the worst game design ever. I actually never wanted to step foot in the Maw ever again. I actively hated it. I hated playing it. It wasn't fun. Things like the Mage Tower, where difficulty comes from being able to do damage, avoid mechanics, right? Time your damage correctly, that sort of thing. That's way more interesting to me than just the fact that you can't mount up. Some stuff, if you aggro it, is just going to randomly one-shot you, right? That's not fun. I really didn't enjoy it. I liked Korthia more. Korthia was more interesting to me. That's a sort of normal end game zone. It's like more of a normal end game zone design, and that was fine. Like, I actually liked Korthia, but the 9 points, no, that was just, it was awful. I actively despised it. More variety in transmogs. This one isn't even close. Shadowlands had lots of good different appearances. Dragonflight, great time to be a shaman. Is that true? I guess Shadowlands had all of like the recolors from the Covenant. So if you were interested in collecting those recolors, like you would have had a lot of content. Yeah, I guess there was a lot there. The trading post is pretty lit though. There's a lot of things to collect through that. Yeah. I think it's different. Like, again, the transmogs here were, maybe Blizzard should have done it, to be honest, just to give like collectors more stuff to do. But the transmogs a lot of the time were just recolors, right? It was the same thing with a slightly different like tint. So there's nothing crazy. I do agree though. This is probably the point that I agree the most on. Next up, we have less monotonous leveling experience in Shadowlands. It truly is the exact same experience every time in Dragonflight. I hard disagree on this one. I've leveled through the campaign. I've leveled through open world. I've leveled through dungeons. I've leveled through the Cobalt Assembly. And I've also leveled through time walking, actually. So I've leveled 5 times. 5 different... Yeah, every single time that I've leveled, I think I've got 5 level 70 characters. Every single one has been leveled with a different technique. In Shadowlands, I actually think I leveled the same way every time. I basically did the campaign up until the point where you could go into the Fated mechanic, and then you could hand in like 2 or 3 of those big chunky quests, and that would take you up to level 60. Yeah, I just, again, I hard disagree on this. The Dragonflight leveling experience is class because you can literally just do different activities and you get through the levels and then you're done. Yeah, there's no way I would have ever leveled through Battlegrounds or something like that in Shadowlands. That just would never have happened. Number 5, then, we have higher obtainable power levels in Shadowlands, especially late in the game. This is one of the things about power. It didn't just annoyingly exist, it was also power. Higher obtainable power levels. This is the one that I understand the least. I'm not entirely sure about. Do they mean like conduits? Is that what they mean? In terms of borrowed power? Legendaries, it was just collect resources for a few weeks, right? It wasn't like something you grinded. It wasn't artifact power, really. I guess renown sort of was. Yeah, I can see. Okay, there was, yeah, always power to be gained through renown and then being able to add more conduits in, right? I actually just dislike it though. The more that I look back on it and versus the experience that I have now, where I can jump into an alt, I've got 5 crafted pieces waiting for me, and then I just have to go and do raiding or Mythic Plus, and I can start gearing it and just playing the content that I love. I like that way more than having to do Torghast or World Quests or whatever to get my renown up and my legendaries together. I like just being unleashed. I like just being able to, like, I'm about to release a series, right? A Brewmaster series, a tanking to a plus 20 series. And I actually got the character ready in a few days, pretty much. It's already at like 390 item level before I'm not even going to start getting into Mythic Plus yet. I'm already 390 item level. That's just so good. I love that. How long would it have taken me? It would have been like 3 or 4 weeks or something, I would have imagined, in like 9.0 to get a character ready for a Pug series, right? To actually get an alt ready to go. So it just feels better to me. I just fundamentally disagree. Horde and Alliance existed. Again, it's crazy. I didn't realize that people had these opinions, that they actually wanted Horde versus Alliance. It's just nuts. I tried playing Alliance in the past and doing Mythic Plus, and there was so few keys going that I was like, no, I'm only ever going to play Horde. Now I can actually play humans and I can play dwarfs, which are probably my 2 favorite models in the game. And I can do Mythic Plus with it. It's like, it's just better, right? I genuinely just like, I don't think I really cared about Horde versus Alliance at all. If anything, I like Alliance more, and I wanted it to be Alliance killing Horde, but I couldn't because of the faction imbalance. Yeah, again, I just fundamentally disagree. It's kind of crazy to me. So anyway, yeah, I'd be super interested to see what people think about this and whether there's lots of people that have the same opinion, because, like I said, it's a complete opposite to me. I don't understand this at all. again, I respect the opinions, right? Like, you can like whatever you like, but I just don't understand it. I like the complete opposite, it seems. It's like we're just complete opposite ends of the spectrum. It's crazy. Next up, we have, how do I get into M plus 10 and up? This is the first expansion since Mythic Plus came out in Legion that I decided to actually try it out as a gearing path. In Shadowlands, I felt like I was really getting left behind in my friends and family raid team for not doing it at all. This wasn't as much of an issue in Legion or BFA, but I was always 10 eye levels behind in Shadowlands. So I went ahead and I dived in. First, I tried lower keys, then gradually worked my way up to 1400 by doing almost exclusively 8s and 9s. I've avoided 10s and over because I'm not sure how the new lightning mechanic works and worried I'd fail. I think my DPS is decent, about 50 to 60k single target and highly variable AoE, but I've always struggled with how wildly different tanks tend to move around. So how does one approach the realm of 10 pluses without embarrassing yourself? Or should I just keep going and doing 8s and 9s? I'm almost always the top DPS in those, so I sort of feel comfortable, but maybe not living up to my potential. I don't know. This is just such a wholesome post. It's so wholesome, it's crazy. Yeah, I love it. Now, I'm going to talk probably at this person, even though they're never going to watch this video, but this applies to anyone who's in the same situation. If you're watching this and you're struggling with getting into keys or anxiety about joining keys, imposter syndrome, whatever it is, right? Everything I'm about to mention, just it applies to a vast majority of people in the game. I think, well, I say that. I think most people don't play Mythic Plus. I don't know whether it's because players are worried about getting into it or whether they just don't care. It's probably don't care, to be honest, but there's probably, I still think there's quite a few people that probably, you know, feel this way, right? So everything I'm about to say basically isn't just at this person, even though it'll sound like it. It's to the group of people who are probably like this. There is nothing embarrassing about learning on the job and joining Mythic Plus, right? I know that it can be, there's like an anxiety around it, right? And that you don't want to do it in case it goes wrong. All of us get that. I'm telling you, it gets easy with repetitions, though. The more that you do it, the easier it will become. I remember when I first uploaded my Elemental Shaman series, right? This is more of a personal anecdote from me. I was super nervous because I literally had never played Elemental Shaman. I didn't even play ranged in Dragonflight, right? Last time that I played Elemental Shaman was for a series that I did in Shadowlands, and I played it for a very brief moment. So I didn't really know how the spec worked, and I was going to play poorly, right? And I've played poorly, I've captured it, everything is out there. You can see how badly I play Elemental Shaman in my +2 to +20 series, right? But it just, there's no worry anymore because I've done it enough that I just, I've gotten over it, if that makes sense. Yeah, that taking that first step can be really hard though. And honestly, if you're comfortable with what you're doing and you're enjoying it, I mean, that's what WoW's about, right? It's just about enjoying it. But it sounds like you're also a bit nervous about potentially missing out, that fear of missing out, right? Well, I would suggest that you just take that first step, and the best way of doing it is using your own key, right? If you use your own key, you're not worried about wasting other people's time or breaking other people's keys, right? I mean, you still might be wasting people's time, but it's not like it's a waste of time playing World of Warcraft in the grand scheme of things. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's something that you enjoy. If people are getting super frustrated with breaking keys, like they shouldn't be playing Mythic Plus, I would say 50% of my keys get bricked. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those things that you have to deal with in the game. So if you put your own key on the line, though, obviously it's going to help remove some of that anxiety because then you know it's your key. So I would try that. And the other thing that I would also try and do is just watch some videos, right? Or read about it, and just the bits that you are worried about. So in this, it seems like you're worried about Thundering Affix. See if you can get some weak auras, set up your UI for it, right? That sort of thing. Again, it's like a general sentiment. If there's something that you're specifically worried about, whoever's watching, right? Just go and tackle it by reading about it, and then hopefully it'll be a little bit easier once you jump into the key. Next up, we have then, so healers want to heal. Now, you've got to be careful with this. This sounds like it's being written by a healer. It's not. It's being written by a melee DPS. So it frustrates me because it's not. It's from a point of misunderstanding, is what I will say. Yeah, it doesn't really make sense as a melee DPS to talk about healers wanting to heal more. I think you have to be a healer really to like understand the viewpoint. But anyway, let's just go through it. Why does that title sound like something out of Total Recall? Anyway, some people want healers to pop damage during downtime. Sure, why not during downtime? Not when the group is at 50% health. But what's the problem currently? The real problem, tanks take little to no damage, can self-heal at or higher than a healer HPS, and can solo a lot of bosses even at decent key levels. Even some raid bosses, a tank can go for a bit without a healer. It's not entirely a tank issue. I mean, it is entirely a tank issue, right? The tank balance is broken. I think that tanks needs to be how durable they are at the minute, though, to then enable healers to still be able to heal the group. There are still some keys which are literally limited by healing throughput, using your damage correctly to be able to get through breakpoints, right, and using your defensives. So I think the scaling is in a position still that healers still have a very hard job. It's not like tanks being completely self-sustaining is fixed that, if that makes any sense. But what I'm trying to say is, if you increase the tank damage throughput, so tanks are taking more damage, I think you're going to have to increase healer output to be able to keep up with it. Next point that they make then is that it's the DPS. They are either good enough to take no damage, or when they are hit, they die. There is AoE damage that goes out that requires a healer, but that's basically it. Any other damage that you can avoid or is designed for a tank will kill a DPS. That's just not true. There's so much random damage that's going out in Mythic Plus. So, shooty mobs are an example, right? Knockhood is a good example of this. The war spears when they leave the bleed on you, or the shooty mobs where they're just randomly shooting things. That damage that's going out, the healer still has to heal through. It's not random AoE damage, right? It's not damage on the tank. There's still a lot of pack, like just specific group-wide damage going out. So yeah, I don't agree with this statement. A healer wants to heal, a tank is like, hey, watch this, and a DPS goes, this floor tastes nice. So they're making a statement against each of the roles. Healers want to spam heal, tanks want to be able to just do whatever they want, and DPS are just dying at the minute, I guess, maybe. Make tanks take more damage while in groups, or more so less damage while solo, then allow DPS to take less damage. I don't really understand that. I guess they're saying that they just want DPS to take less damage. I've done Knocked plus 16 of the day, third boss the group effect went off, and I was on the wrong side, so I ran over at full health and died, got a res, it happened again, and I used Tiger's Lust to get over it with like 20% HP left. And no, I did not get hit by the ground effect, it was a taking damage from standing in it that killed me. I don't see why that's an issue. That's clearly, the mechanic is supposed to be don't run through it, so if you're on the wrong side of the boss, then you get 5 seconds of downtime and you just have to deal with the downtime. I don't think that taking for too much damage is really an issue. That's clearly just like a mechanic, a design feature almost of the fight, right? Not sure. Anyway, they say, I literally could not get to the boss without a movement speed effect or defensive before I dropped dead, and then I ran out of movement or defensives. Yeah, I just dropped dead and it's not good. When I tank, I feel indestructible and sometimes forget that DPS are comparatively weak, so I do overpull sometimes, sorry. And when I DPS, I spend a good amount of time watching cast bars aggro, AoE, ground effects, and just play dodgeball. I probably should not be like this. It's not exactly fun playing melee DPS sometimes. I think this final statement is basically what they're getting at. And yeah, sort of agree. Melee is a bit, for different reasons though. Melee is a bit of like, it's just a mess because there's so many ground effects and things that you have to watch out for. And there's a range that does feel like I can just sort of sit away from the chaos, but I don't think the damage is the issue. I still, because if you reduce damage that's going out on DPS players, so they can just sit there and tank, you know, they just become a turret to do damage. That's not going to be fun. I like the idea that I have to engage with the mobs and I have to run away from stuff and not stand in stuff. So yeah, I don't really agree with this. Next up we have random spark drop equals Legion legendary mistake all over again. Let's not let this play out any longer. We know how it ends. Just fix it to reliable drops per week or something. Ain't nobody wanting RNG drops back from porn items. I just fundamentally disagree. They're not that important, I guess is what I would say. Crafting items, do they make that much of a difference? 418 item level versus 415 for max valor that you can just grind right now. Like you could literally just grind out a 415 piece in I guess, a couple of hours with a few dungeons being completed, right? Maybe not. Maybe it would take you like 5 or 6 hours, but still, if you could average like 5 or 6 plus 2s an hour, you know, you'd get there pretty quick. So yeah, I just disagree. I don't think they're that important, and I don't care about the RNG nature of those drops. I think it's an okay enough power level that it's fine to just come from whenever it drops. That's all right with me. I don't care enough about it. Yeah. Finally, we have, so when are we getting punishment for leavers on M+? This is getting ridiculous. Now, here's my experience so far. I'm actually not going to go through this too much because basically it results in one player dying a couple of times and then they just leave. So this is the third point. He steps on a tomb on second boss, DPS gets tilted and his nature gets triggered, cusses everyone, leaves and breaks the key. I PM him asking why. We could complete it under time. He replies, what are you going to do about it? It's not reportable. I can just join another key easily. There's no punishment. Yeah. I think someone purposely trolling a key should be reportable. It's just not. Like, I think if it's an accidental thing, fine. But if someone's literally on record saying that they purposely trolled a key and then, you know, just left it, it's like equivalently in League of Legends, if someone just like runs it down mid and you can't report them, then it's just, people are going to do it more often, right? I feel like if it's a reportable offense, people are going to do it less often. So yeah, I completely agree with this. Although, having said that, Blizzard have just made it so that you want to leave keys more often at higher levels. At plus 20 and above, I think, or was it plus 21s and above, you basically don't get score anymore if the key's going to be over, right? So it's going to be overtimed. That means that everyone wants to leave really as soon as there's a wipe. So yeah, it's kind of difficult because Blizzard have got like the opposite ends of the spectrum there. On one hand, they want you to leave keys, and on the other end, we've got people who are basically trolling that then you can't report. So it's weird. Anyway, that's it for the drama, right? Hopefully you've enjoyed it. There's been some interesting ones in here. I'm super interested to know specifically if people have the same opinion as this post here, where they actually really like Shadowlands. For me, I'm just the polar opposite, so I'd be very interested in knowing your take on this one and seeing whether there's similar-minded players in my community that really like Shadowlands, because, like I said, for me, it's just, I'm the exact opposite, so definitely be interested to see if you like it or not. Anyway, having said all that, hopefully you have enjoyed it. If you have, if you want to drop me a thumbs up and subscribe, that would be awesome. You can catch me over on Twitch on Wednesdays and Thursdays, as well as potentially on weekends from 9 EU server time to 1 AM server time. I'm doing viewer keys almost exclusively, so you can come play along with me. And if you do want to get in touch, the easiest way is probably through my Discord. And if you want to support me more than just a subscribe and a like, then feel free to head on over to my Patreon as well. Anyway, hopefully you have enjoyed it. If you have, we will catch you in the next one. Cheers.